Friday, everybody. I want to talk to you about something that is really been on my mind because of a book I recently read, and that is how parents can strategize their kids' teen years for a successful defining decade. So I just read this phenomenal book by Dr. Meg Jay, The Defining Decade. Did you know that your 20s aren't just about figuring things out? They're about setting the course for the rest of your life. And this book by Dr. May lays it all out. So the choices your teens are making now are the building blocks for success during that defining decade. I'm going to do a whole podcast on this book and just what the defining decade is and how we can go into it. But I wanted to share 7 tips that you can implement today while your kids are in middle school or even high school so that they can have a super successful defining decade, because the stats are in and a lot of our 20-year-olds are not having successful 20s. They're really on the struggle bus in so many ways. So I want to, again, equip you to really help your kids have a successful middle school, high school experience so that they can go on to have really successful 20-year-old times. Now, some of you guys know I have a master's degree in human development. And when you're younger, like between zero, birth and 15 to 20, your developmental tasks go very, very quickly. They can last for months or sometimes a couple of years. But when you hit your 20s, all of a sudden your developmental tasks take a decade. So you have tasks in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, et cetera, et cetera. And the 2 developmental tasks that are so important in your 20s are to establish yourself vocationally and to establish yourself familially. What does that mean? Well, setting yourself up vocationally means how are you going to pay for yourself? How are you going to pay for where you live and the kind of lifestyle you lead? Setting yourself up familially means how are you going to establish your own home with a spouse and children and all those kind of things. So really important decisions get made in your 20s, and the way we set that up is in our teens, right? So a lot of people think that teens are so hard. I think teens, and especially if you're doing alternative education, it's such a fun time to be in relationship with your kid and have all the time that alternative education affords you to spend with them and talk to set them up for success. So as parents, we have a super unique opportunity to lay the groundwork for a successful 20-year-old decade in our kids' teen years. And I want to give you 7 actionable steps to help your kids thrive in their 20s. First of all, encourage exploration of interests. Now, I've said this before that high school should really be kind of a smorgasbord for your kids, where they should be trying and tasting a lot of different subjects, academics, community service, electives, all sorts of hobbies and interests. They don't really know what they like or don't like yet. And a lot of people think you have to have passions. We talk about this in our workshops. But really, passions come out of having some sort of expertise or skill. And then we build on that skill, and all of a sudden we're an expert in it. And everybody can agree, I think, that being an expert in something can be really fun. Right? So if your kids don't have a passion yet, don't stress, don't worry about it. They're young, they have time. Okay, but we do really want to encourage our kids to explore a variety of interests, whether it's a part-time job, a volunteer role, extracurricular activities. This is why I really still do like the typical course of study, because a typical course of study is going to give your kids a smorgasbord of science, history, math, and English, and those skills that go with those different subject matters so they can dive deeper into it in college or in their vocational life or whatever. But a typical course of study does kind of give your kids a nice smorgasbord to explore and discover different academic subject areas. And then, of course, you want to fill in with electives and volunteer service and stuff like that. So that's number 1, encourage exploration of interests. Number 2, teach networking skills. Now, one of the things I've noticed, and maybe you have too, is that a lot of kids in their teens and tweens, they're on devices a lot of times. They don't really make eye contact. They don't say hello. They don't shake your hand. I'm noticing this even more and more with adults as we do hiring at True North Academy. A lot of times they don't even have a greeting. They don't introduce themselves. They don't say how they found our company. They don't say what they like about our company, even when we ask them. And so I think teaching our kids networking skills, these are what we would have normally called, basic social skills, like how to shake a hand and how to introduce themselves. And you can even role play this with your kids. I really like Team Pact. I think it does a good job of teaching your kids some of these basic social skills. We want to teach our kids to ask questions and follow up on those questions. Now, asking questions takes a bit of maturity because it's not focused on you, it's focused on somebody else. It's asking what they think, it's asking about them. And so that means putting the device down, being aware of your surroundings, being around aware of other people, and asking pertinent questions that can be icebreakers, that can be, just a way to get to know somebody else. That takes curiosity. And one of the things that really deadens curiosity is, by the way, electronic devices. So we've got to really teach our kids, be curious about other people, learn how to network, and encourage them to participate in community events and clubs so that they can expand their network. Now, one of the things I loved about the defining decade, and I'm going to go more into this in the podcast, is that it doesn't have to be like networking with people that you're really, really tight with. It can be a week time networking. And I'm going to go more into that in the podcast. But again, just one of the brilliant little takeaways from this book. But back to networking, we need to teach our kids networking skills. Most kids, now I'm not saying this for everybody because some kids are just naturally social and they get how to do this, but most kids can use some coaching in this area. So don't overlook it as you're teaching your kids through middle school and high school. And then promote goal setting. Helping our kids to set achievable short-term and long-term goals is a life skill that will take them so far. And you can use tools like journals, planners, family check-ins to track progress. I did a podcast on this about how we used to have a family planning meeting and everybody got day timers, and we taught our kids executive functioning skills through those meetings. And then I would have a weekly meeting with all of my high schoolers. And that is an important thing. Because a lot of kids don't realize the time, the setup, the breakdown that goes into one activity. So my son used to take karate. It was a half an hour away, and he would put on his schedule 1 hour time block for karate, but he didn't put the drive time. He didn't do getting his clothes, getting his gear, getting his water bottle, closing down what he was doing. He didn't build in the snack. He didn't build in having to take a shower when he got home. So really it ended up being like a 2.5 hour, maybe 3 hour activity instead of just one. And so that's what can happen when you use a day timer with your kids, but help them set those goals. If they're in something like karate, do they want to earn a certain belt, or are they just in it for fun? And I don't mean just as in that's derogatory. Just fun can be all the reason you need to do something, right? But helping them set goals. When do they want to graduate from high school? Do they want to have any college done? With our dual degree program, they can have all of their college done by the time they graduate from high school. Are they going to go get a job? And what industry do they want to get a job? Part of goal setting is dreaming. So let your kids dream. Let them just kind of like try on different ideas for size. But promote goal setting. Super helpful for all of our kids, especially after they launch and they're on their own. Do they know how to do that for themselves? Model financial literacy. Introduce your kids to budgeting, saving, investing. Teach them the basics of managing money, including how to set up a bank account responsibly and using a debit and credit card. Now, I follow a lot of entrepreneurs and people in finance and stuff, and you've got two schools of thought about debt. Dave Ramsey is like, all debt is bad. Somebody like Cody Sanchez is like, you'll never make real wealth until you learn how to leverage debt. So that's a great discussion right there to have with your kids. But don't overlook economics. Don't overlook personal budgeting and finance. Don't overlook accounting. All classes that we teach at True North Academy. These are life skills that your kids will absolutely need. And understanding how to manage debt is so very important, especially as you have that conversation with them, or many conversations with them, about college. Because most of our kids have not even taken out a car loan before they decide to go to very expensive college. And they're willing to indenture themselves to this debt that could be tens and maybe even hundreds of thousands of debt. So is the return on the investment for the debt worth it, yay or nay? These are really important conversations and very important skills to teach your kids. Number 5, foster independence for your kids. Allow your kids to make decisions and experience natural consequences. Now, as parents, one of the things we want most for our kids is for them to succeed and not ever see them fail. I mean, it's so hard to see our kids failing, to see them making choices that we don't agree with vocationally, maybe even morally. That's one of the hardest things as a parent we can experience. But we have to allow our kids to fail because you don't learn without failure. That is just, it is intertwined. It is part of the deal. If you're going to learn, you're going to have failure, and we have got to allow our kids to foster independence, whether that means traveling, going to camps, managing their schedule, cooking meals, solving small problems, obviously, hopefully, before we allow them to solve big ones. Those skills build confidence and resilience. But being able to be independent, having failures, this is what helps our kids build resilience, helps them build grit. And believe me, we need some people with grit in this world, right? So fostering independence, supporting healthy relationships, talking openly about friendships, romantic relationships, their goals and dreams for family, what maybe some of your goals and dreams are for their family when they have kids, and how those relationships will work. Help them understand healthy boundaries and respect and what that looks like in all types of connections. Now, our kids have a lot of things coming at them from social media, and the research shows that our kids might have more in common with another teen in China than they do with their parents living in their own home because of social media. So if you think you're the most important influence in your kid's life, but they have a device, you are not. Okay, you're like number 3 or 4 on the list, and the only reason you make the top 5 is because you are lumped in with all other family. So your kids have a lot of influence in their lives going on right now, so you've got to really support healthy relationships because they're getting a lot of information that isn't really healthy, and you want to just help them manage that. And then help your kids, help guide them academically as they make academic and career choices. Do it with intention. You want to collaborate with your teen to choose classes, extracurricular, and experiences that align with their future goals. Now, I have worked with Olympic athletes over the years, and one of the things that really impresses me about Olympic athletes is their parents. And the reason why I say that is because their parents have been super intentional and have had the resources to be intentional and to fund the intentionality that they have for their kids. The couple of Olympic athletes that I've worked with, it's been a long day of talking, so sorry about that. I've worked with one gymnastics Olympic athlete, and her parents put her in gymnastics at 2 because she was so hyperactive. She was literally tearing her house apart. She was swinging from curtains. She was fearless. They put her in gymnastics. She's doing backflips at like 4 and 5 and stuff like that. So they had the wherewithal and the means to really support this, directing her energies in such a creative and constructive ways. So, and I worked with somebody whose kiddo was in golf too, the same kind of thing. They were very intentional about getting their kids started in certain things very early and just expecting that their kids would follow through. Of course, it's going to be helpful if your kiddo has some aptitude towards that thing. If they are just like kinesthetically not going to happen on the gymnastics floor or with the golf swing, maybe sports isn't the thing for them. But I worked with another student that, for one, he was a bowler, so he went around the world and bowled, and he had like tens of thousands of dollars in the bank from bowling. Crazy, right? But true. And then his mom was a biologist, and so she helped him develop a strain of tomato that he actually got a trademark or a patent for. I can't remember which, but such a cool thing, right? And so he had already gotten a full ride scholarship to Atlanta and State University, Georgia State. Yeah, Georgia State. And that was because his mom was very intentional about some of his career choices. And he obviously had some real aptitude towards it. He loved being in the lab. He loved developing. So that is one of the best things we can do to really help our kids to foster having a successful decade of being 20. So I'm going to just go over those really quickly again. Encourage exploration of interests, teach networking skills, promote goal setting, model financial literacy, foster independence, and support healthy relationships, and then guide academic and career choices intentionally. Now, I know a lot of people are going into alternative education or homeschooling, and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just know that that situation my kids were in is not going to work out for us anymore. It's not happening. I'm pulling them out, and I'm going to figure this out as I go. And I just totally applaud you for that, because parents, we have a sixth sense about what's going to really work for our kids. And so if you know that they need to be removed from a certain situation, then that's great. So what do you do next? I love starting with a typical course of study. We have a lot of blog posts and podcasts about what that is, but we also have our ongoing free 15-minute academic advising with Tamara Poole. And we just had somebody go through it last night. Tamara was telling us about this morning in a staff meeting, and she said their kiddo was 15 or 16, but he already had all the credits to graduate, and and he wants to start college. He's ready to go. He wants to work full time and go to college while he's still living at home. And the mom was like, "No, I want to buy classes at True North." And Tamara's like, "You know what? He's goal driven. He's got this plan. He's got the wherewithal to make it happen. Don't buy True North classes, go this direction." And so I just want to share with you that, of course, we want you to take our classes. They're the best on the market, but it's not a sales pitch. It's really an academic advising session to help you really understand what's a good direction to go with my kids academically. And so, of course, we're going to give you some other suggestions about life skills and possibly extracurriculars that would make sense for your kiddos. But I hope you take advantage of that free 15-minute advising. And then we still have the free 2-year academic plan available to you. You can go to truenorthhomeschool.academy. Go to the top menu and click advising and testing, and you will see the form to fill out there, and then we'll get you started with all of that. And of course, if you want to purchase a full session, a 1-hour academic advising session, we'd be happy for you to do that too. Before we go tonight, I know it's Friday, guys. I hope you've had a great long week. We sure have here, and so we're excited about it being the weekend. Not gonna lie, but wanted to tell you about a really super exciting program we have that is new to True North this coming year, and that is our Core 4 bundle. Now, with the Core 4 bundle, it is math, science, English, history. And so we're going to still personalize it for you. You still get the bundle discount, but we're also adding in the performance series test as well as academic advising for you. So you're going to get academic advising, you're going to get a test, and you're going to get the Core 4 classes. Now, if you want to add on foreign language or other things, we're happy to do that for you too. With high school, we're working out a special deal with College Plus Genius so that we can add on ACT and SAT test prep class, self-paced test prep class. So super excited about that. And speaking of self-paced, go check out our self-paced classes. They've been super popular. We have pacing guides in there for you now. We do all the grading. It still goes on your grade report, so you don't have to take live classes with True North to take advantage of those self-paced classes. They're a lot of fun. So we have baking, we've got fitness, we've got a project management class, and we've got a lot more coming. You're going to be want to keep an eye on that tab on the website too, because we've got some really fun ones like positive psychology, human growth and development, influencers, podcasters. There's a list coming, so be sure to watch that tab. Okay, you guys, this is Lisa Nehring from True North Academy. I hope you've had a great week. Our registration is open for fall. In fact, it's been open for weeks now. And if you want a certain class, a certain section, day and time, order sooner than later. Some of our classes are filling. German 2 has been a hot class already, so is biology, chemistry, A&P, Latin 2, graphic design. Let us know if you have any questions. We'd love to talk to you about classes or help you with academic advising. And be sure and check out the podcast. We'll link it. But The Defining Decade, go get this book if you haven't heard of it yet. You can't see it in the glare, but super great book by Meg Jay, PhD. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.